Cowboy Nation? It's Dallas fan 1997 here, guys. And I wanted to talk about some notes from last night's game. Obviously, I was pretty excited that we won. I understand it's preseason. I get that it doesn't, matter in terms of, making the playoffs or anything like that. But, it's nice to, as a Cowboys fan, just to win any game, man, even if it's preseason. Um, it was fun to watch yesterday. I was really impressed for the most part with how the team played yesterday. I know I went live a couple different times. Uh, Range of emotions a little bit in the first quarter, but yeah, man. First of all, uh, game note number one: Christian Parker's defense looked pretty good. I've been skeptical of Christian Parker's defense. Still am a little bit skeptical, but they showed a stat that they had. Last year the defense I think had 19 missed tackles in the first preseason game. This year they had zero. Obviously, take that with a grain of salt because next gen stats can be a little bit wonky, but based off that, that's a lot better. Um, the first drive, the defense actually was looking okay until Kalen Carson made that terrible, terrible penalty. I mean, and honestly, I mentioned it in my post game. Other than the one pass breakup that he had, Kalen Carson didn't have a good game yesterday. I mean, he had three penalties, two on that first drive, which led to points for the Seattle Seahawks. If he doesn't commit that penalty, Cowboys would have stopped Seattle, and most likely we could have had a shutout yesterday if it wasn't for that. So, uh, Kalen Carson really struggled yesterday. Was not impressed with him. Malachi Lawrence, wasn't that impressed with Malachi Lawrence. Now, I will say this. I see the talent with Malachi Lawrence. I see the speed. I see what people are looking at. But I don't think he did a good job setting the edge at times. I know that Cowboys Corner mentioned that on his channel, and I agree because I was watching him and he did not set the edge well when he was out there. And also, man, I mentioned this yesterday. I didn't like Malachi Lawrence's effort at times. It seems like when he didn't set the edge, he let Jalen Milroe just run right by him on that third down. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. Malachi Lawrence, hopefully he continues to get better and develop. I know he's just a rookie. And again, I see the talent with Malachi Lawrence, but he's got to do a better job of setting the edge, and he's got to do a better job when it comes to his effort at times. That's how I feel about that. But Siobhan Revel had a nice play there early on in the game. He broke up that pass to, I believe it was Jake Bobo. I could be wrong, but he actually played pretty good. Liked what I saw from Siobhan Revel. Really did. Julius Wood. Julius Wood had a nice game. I was really impressed with Julius Wood out there. He's a guy a lot of Cowboys fans are familiar with. He played with us just a couple of years ago. And Julius Wood had a nice game, man. I mean, he was all around the ball. He was hitting hard. He was playing hard. He had that really nice tackle on the goal line, which I thought was really impressive. He stopped the running back from scoring. So I liked what I saw from Julius Wood, yesterday. Uh, so, anyways, um, yeah, Julius Wood had a nice game. I liked what I saw from him. I think a lot of Cowboys fans, I don't know a lot of people that gave Julius Wood some credit, but Julius Wood played good yesterday. I liked what I saw from him. So, um, yeah, man, that goal line stand towards the end there was a good job by Christian Parker's defense. Uh, Trayshawn Holden, you can't be fumbling, especially in the preseason. You're trying to, potentially make the Cowboys roster, and you fumbling on the goal line, giving the Seahawks a golden opportunity to score. You can't be doing stuff like that. Uh, Not good from Trayshawn Holden. He may be getting cut after that. And honestly, I didn't think Trayshawn Holden was going to make the team anyway. regardless. But Trayshawn Holden, man, you can't get out there and fumble like that. So not good. The other thing I'd like to note is too many penalties. I mean, 13 penalties in a game. I know it's preseason, but in a game, 13 penalties is unacceptable. Um, I know it's preseason. I know that it's early, but, you practice like you play, the old saying goes. You know, this has been kind of an issue for a while. We've been seeing a lot of these guys get away with holding in practice and penalties. Cowboys got to clean up the penalties, man. I mean, 13 penalties, even in a preseason game, is just unacceptable. We've led the league in penalties the last couple of years, and that's got to get cleaned up. Whether it's been Mike McCarthy, Brian Schottenheimer, Cowboys got to clean up the penalties, man. And the penalties were ridiculous yesterday. Kalen Carson, like I said, was especially bad. He had like three penalties, and his penalties were costly. I mean, it led to the only score of the game for Seattle. Otherwise, it would have been 3-and-out. So, got to clean that up. Got to clean that up. But yeah, man. Like I said, defense played good. Also, I talked about it in my post game. James Houston looked really good out there yesterday. He officially only had one sack because the other sack he had was a penalty that the Cowboys accepted. But if we didn't accept that, it would have been a sack number two for James Houston. He got a sack on the very next play that was official. But James Houston, man, I've been saying it since last year. I really think that James Houston should get an opportunity to start. Unfortunately, though, I think they just see him as a situational pass rusher. But honestly, I'd really like to see James Houston get a chance to compete there with Donovan Ezeraku, because I think he could absolutely go out there and start. I mean, he was one of our better pass rushers last year, and that was just in a situational role. I think James Houston's more than capable of being a starter. But I think, him being a little bit smaller, him not really fitting the prototype is kind of what's prevented him from being the, you know, prevented him from being the full-time starter there. But James Houston had a good game. Julius Wood had a good game. Javon Revel played well. Um, Justin Barron actually played pretty good yesterday. I was watching him out there. He looked decent at times. Isaiah Land actually played pretty good. He had a sack there at the end. And then, of course, Reedy Stewart and Tyrus Wheat both had a half a sack towards the end there. So the pass rush did kind of get going in this game. We officially only had 3 sacks, but really we had 4 because the other penalty we accepted. Otherwise, it would have been 4 sacks. But Cowboys, they got after the Seattle Seahawks defense. And Christian Parker, good job, man. I know it's preseason. I get that it's a bunch of backups, but Seattle Seahawks are a very deep team. They just won the Super Bowl. I think they're a roster that's got a lot of talent, a lot of depth, and for the Cowboys to outplay them, I think says a lot. So, yeah, man, defense. Those are my guys that I thought played well. Julius Wood, James Houston, you know, Isaiah Land, Barron, Devon Revel. All those guys played pretty good. Obviously, the big criticism was the 13 penalties overall, unacceptable. The muffed punt by Trayshawn Holden, unacceptable there. And then, of course, you had, the 3 penalties by Kalen Carson, unacceptable there. But overall, defense played good yesterday, other than the one drive, which I honestly blame more on Carson because he got that costly penalty that just gave the momentum to Seattle. The defense played pretty good yesterday. Everybody looked pretty good. And they still gave up over 100 yards rushing, but, overall, I don't think they defense played too bad. They really didn't. They actually looked decent out there. I know it's backups on backups, but they look decent against Seattle's backups. Our backups look good against their backups, so I want to say that. On to the offensive side of the ball. I said it last night, man. Sam Howell played a good game. He played a very good game. He was efficient. He used his legs. I think he read the field really well. all the throws that Sam Howell made outside of one was right there. I mean, he had four incompletions, but three out of his four incompletions were not his fault. I mean, the balls were thrown perfectly to the wide receivers, and either the Seattle Seahawks guys just made a good play on the ball, or the receivers just straight up dropped them. But Sam Howell looked good yesterday. I'm very comfortable with him being our backup. I've been saying it for a while. I think if you put Sam Howell with the starters of the Dallas Cowboys, he's capable of throwing 25 plus touchdowns. And from what I saw yesterday, I think he's still very much capable of doing that. He's a guy that can come in if Dak gets hurt, and he could win a lot of games for the Dallas Cowboys. I think this is definitely the best team that Sam Howell has ever been a part of, at least on the offensive side of the ball. And Sam Howell played a really good game yesterday for the Dallas Cowboys. He had a great throw to Camden Brown for a 39-yard touchdown, because a lot of people were giving Camden Brown a lot of credit because it was a great catch. But for Sam Howell to fit it in the double coverage, the throw had to be perfect. It was right. And if you look at it, he threw a perfect pass right to Camden Brown, hit him right between the numbers. Camden Brown made a great catch as well, and he was being held by the Seattle guy, and he still made a really good catch there. Uh, Sam Howell overall played a very good game yesterday. Then on to Joe Milton. Joe Milton also played a very good game yesterday. I watched some of Joe Milton's throws. His accuracy looked way better, especially going across the field. Now, he did have a couple passes that were a little, overthrown or a little wild, kind of what we saw last year, but there was only like three of them. But other than those, like two or three passes that he had, Joe Milton looked pretty good. Um, I think the touchdown pass that Hal had was more impressive than Milton, because one, it was deeper, and one, it was just a perfect throw. Milton had a decent throw to Camden Brown, but that was kind of more Camden Brown making the one-handed catch. But still, he got it there, and you got to give Joe Milton some credit. Like, I watched his passes, man. His anticipation and timing looks a lot better than it did last year. His accuracy looks a lot better than what it did last year. Overall, I liked what I saw from the Dallas Cowboys backup quarterbacks. I still don't know whether it should be Hal or Milton. I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards Hal, but I like what I saw from both guys. I think Sam Howell played a very good game. I think that Joe Milton also played a very good game, and he kind of redeemed himself last year. And I can see why the QB2 competition's tough. It's not because these guys suck. It's because these guys have both played really well, and it's really hard to decide. But Joe Milton played a very good game. Sam Howell also played a very good game yesterday. And Howell just, man, I think he commanded the offense well. And I think Milton did a good job too. So I liked what I saw from both of those quarterbacks. Uh, I think the Cowboys are set at quarterback, whether it's Milton or Sam Howell. Um, the running backs, I think Jaden Blue had a solid game. It was hard because the offensive line, the backups didn't block the greatest, but he still made some good runs at times. He had a nice catch on a screenplay for a first down from Sam Howell, which I like that. Phil Moffa had a couple of decent runs. Um, so there's that. Malik Davis, man, I don't know why people are out on Malik Davis, because I think he did a good job as the backup running back to what's his face to Javonte Williams last year. And I've liked what I've seen from Malik Davis. I think he had a really good game. He just looked very explosive, a lot more explosive than even Blue did at times. And man, oh man, it's tough because Malik Davis is so talented. Somebody will pick him up if the Cowboys decide not to keep him. Also, the other guy we picked up, Israel, I can't pronounce the last name, starts with an A. He actually looked pretty good as well. He had some explosive runs there. So overall, I was impressed with the Dallas Cowboys running back group yesterday. Um, Now on to wide receivers. I mean, Camden Brown. Camden Brown, man, I've been watching Camden Brown since the blue and white scrimmage the other day. He and Sam Howell just had that great connection. I was talking about it in my live just a week ago, and it was, man, oh man, it looked really, really good. I mean, Sam Howell was throwing some great passes to Camden Brown. Camden Brown was making some really good catches. And I was talking about, I can't wait to see how that looks like in the preseason, and it's looked really, really good. Camden Brown had a great game yesterday. Again, he had that great catch. Also, a good throw by Sam Howell there in the end zone. And then he had an even better catch from Joe Milton. He had a one-handed catch there on the fade. Um, Camden Brown right now, he's making a strong case to be wide receiver number 5. And I really believe that. I mean, the guy, he's got good hands. And honestly, I didn't even talk about this until I looked it up today. Anthony Smith, who was our 7th round pick at East Carolina, I mean, Camden Brown had similar type of production last year at Georgia Southern. I mean, people don't even talk about. He had over 1,000 yards and 14 touchdowns last year in college at Georgia Southern. I mean, he had similar type of numbers to Anthony Smith, who also played at a small school, Eastern Carolina. So Camden Brown, very right now, he was definitely the star of the game yesterday with his 2 great touchdown catches and his good plays. And I've been watching him since the scrimmage and in training camp, and he's looked really good in training camp. And so far, he's looked really good in preseason. And I'm telling you, he's a guy that honestly, in my eyes, I said it last night after the game. I honestly think he should be as of right now, he's our wide receiver number 5. Like if it were up to me, the 5 wide receivers that'd be on the Dallas Cowboys roster would be Pickens or Lamb, Pickens, Flournoy, Turpin, and then Camden Brown. Camden Brown would be my number 5 right now, based on what I've seen. But Camden Brown had a great game yesterday. Very definite star of the game. Um, Jonathan Mingo. Jonathan Mingo actually had a really nice connection there with Sam Howell. He had a couple really nice catches on some slants there. I think Jonathan Mingo had a solid game yesterday. Also, I got to point out on that penalty, on that kickoff return where it was a penalty, Jonathan Mingo didn't give up. He ran down there and he made a nice tackle on the Seattle kick return guy. Got to give him a shout out there. I'm glad he was out there putting in effort and trying, even if it was in a special teams role. But Jonathan Mingo had a nice game yesterday. Also, Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith had a decent game. He had a couple nice catches there. Right now, though, if I had to say who the final wide receiver spot would go to between Anthony Smith and Camden Brown, I think it's clearly Camden Brown. I think from what I've seen in training camp, I think Brown's just been a little bit better. I mean, if the Cowboys want to keep 6 wide receivers and they want to keep Smith, I'm cool with that, honestly. But Anthony Smith had a decent game yesterday. So all the wide receivers look pretty good. Even Hudson, Jordan Hudson looked pretty good as well. So those are my notes there. The backup offensive line actually looked decent. Now, they kind of struggled a little bit at first, but they got settled in. Overall, they did get beat a couple times on pressures. They didn't give up any sacks. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks offensive line gave up 3 sacks. Their backups. We didn't give up a single sack yesterday. And so for us not to give up a single sack yesterday, the backup offensive line, you got to give them their credit. They did a good job. Now, I was critical of Drew Shelton yesterday because Drew Shelton got beat a couple times on the line there. He had a really bad false start penalty that set us back. Drew Shelton doesn't look anywhere close to being ready to take over Terrence Steele's job. Like a lot of fans were talking about that. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Terrence Steele's not great, but Drew Shelton is nowhere even close to being ready. He struggled a little bit yesterday, and he got a costly penalty, so he's got to work on that a little bit. But other than that, I think Cornelius looked decent. Trevor Keegan looked decent. Overall, the offensive line, they didn't give up any sacks, so they actually did a pretty decent job yesterday. They did, man. They got better as the game went on. They didn't give up any sacks. Again, they got beat a couple times, but they didn't give up any sacks. So the offensive line played pretty good. Cornelius looked decent out there. Shelton, like I said, was kind of up and down. He was pretty shaky, in my opinion. Keegan, I thought, played decent. Obviously, TJ Bass, he played a little bit, and he's good. We all know TJ Bass is solid. So overall, though, offensive line looks solid. They didn't give up any sacks, and Their pass pro was a little shaky at first, but it got better. So overall, I was pretty satisfied with the backup offensive line. That was pretty good. Um, as for tight ends, Michael Trigg to me, I think he should be our number three. He had a nice game yesterday, 4 catches for 30 yards. Again, he didn't like have a spectacularly fancy game, but he was solid. He made some really nice catches there. I liked what I saw from number 46. Now his blocking still got to get a little bit better, but I'm comfortable with Michael Trigg being our number three. Uh, at this point, if it were up to me, I would just make him number three and I'd move on from Schoonmaker. I know a lot of fans that are just delusional. And I've been saying this about Schoonmaker for the last 4 years. He was a waste of pick. Waste of pick. I told you all he was not going to beat out Jake Ferguson for the starting job, and he hasn't. Ferguson's way better. And I told you at best he was going to be a backup, a second string tight end. He's not even that anymore. Span Ford's beat him out on that. And that he wasn't going to do nothing. He was a waste of pick by the Dallas Cowboys. And you can thank Dak Prescott for that one because Dak was the one who didn't trust Jake Ferguson. Even though I said Jake Ferguson was going to be fine, I said he'd be just as good as Dalton Schultz. And I was right about that based on what I saw. And that we didn't need Luke Schoonmaker. I mean, heck, if you were going to take a tight end, why didn't you take Michael Mayer out of my Notre Dame Fighting Irish? Although he's kind of struggled in the league too, to be honest. But he's also behind Brock Bowers. So, that's tough. But there are other options you could have taken instead of Schoonmaker. But Schoonmaker is a waste of pick. I would honestly keep Trigg. Trigg's a lot cheaper. He's younger. He's got more upside. People are like, well, you're going to miss Schoonmaker in the blocking game. I'm like, bro, you can use Hunter Lipke. If you are we're really going to keep Luke Schoonmaker, who's going to be more money than Michael Trigg or one of these younger guys, just because he can block. Bro, we can get an extra offensive lineman. We can get Hunter Lipke, who can also block, pass, catch, and run for less money. We don't need Luke Schoonmaker. We can move on from Luke Schoonmaker. Like I said, we'd save a lot of money. We got $18 million after extending now on the cap that we extended Quinnen Williams. So honestly, as much as I think Quinnen Williams was a little bit overpaid, not a bad deal by Jerry Jones. It opened up a lot of cap space. But if you move on from Schoonmaker, you open up another $1-2 million, and you save you save a lot of money. So that's my thoughts. I liked Michael Trigg. I know he hasn't technically proved that he's deserves number three over Schoonmaker, but if we're up to me, I would just keep Trigg and I'd move on from Schoonmaker. You really want a blocker so bad, you use Hunter Lipke. You can use an extra offensive lineman. You know what I'm saying? So I'm Schoonmaker, total waste of pick by the Dallas Cowboys, waste of time. I told you all he wasn't going to do nothing, but what do I know, right? You say I don't know nothing about football. I told you Schoonmaker wasn't going to do nothing. But anyways, read some of these comments here real quick. John Causey, Phil 4-1 penalty. Hang on. Reconnecting. I was talking about it earlier in the live mic. I think the defense played good. Other than that first drive that we gave up a touchdown because Kalen Carson's dumb penalty, I think the defense played really good. They had a really nice goal line stand there after that stupid fumble by Trayshawn Holden, and they held. They didn't, and they stopped the Seattle Seahawks. So you got to give them credit. Defense, our backups against Seattle's backups, we won. So I think they played really good yesterday. Is Michael Dude TR or the guy from Baylor? Yes, he's the tight end from Baylor, and I would just keep him. Like I said, Michael Trigg technically hasn't done enough to prove that he's better than Schoonmaker, but he's cheaper, he's younger. I mean, Schoonmaker is going to be 28 years old. He's costing the Cowboys more money than Michael Trigg is. I would just keep Michael Trigg at this point. Like I said, you want an extra blocker so bad, use an extra offensive lineman. Use, Shelton or Cornelius, as that tight end in that tight end role, or Thomas. Or you could use Hunter Lipke as a tight end. I mean, he's 6'2", 200 something pounds. He can run, he can catch, he can block. Use him as a tight end if you want. Use him as your extra blocker. You don't need to keep Luke Schoonmaker because he can block for all that money. But again, waste a pick by the Dallas Cowboys, in my honest opinion. I would move on from him, and I think a lot of fans feel the same way. So, um, so, anyways, that's my thoughts on the offense and just my notes from yesterday's game. Defense looked good. Camden Brown looked good. Sam Howell looked good. Joe Milton looked good. Um, the only negatives really were the penalties, especially from Kalen Carson. He had three of them. The Drew Shelton giving up blocks and getting beat a couple times on the edge, and also his penalty, and then the Trayshawn Holden fumble by special teams. Those are things we got to clean up. As for my 53-man roster predictions, I'll go through it right now based on what I think so far. Quarterback, I think the Cowboys are going to keep three. I think Dak is going to be, obviously, none of us, a lot of people who watch my channel are not big fans of Dak, but Dak's your starter. Sam Howell's going to be your backup, and I believe Joe Milton's probably going to be your third string. Yes, Joe Milton played a good game yesterday, and that could definitely change based on, you know, the next couple weeks, but I think Sam Howell just looks a little bit better and more poised than what you want. Joe Milton definitely looked pretty good yesterday as well, but I just think that Howell is a little bit more consistent. So, but I do think the Cowboys keep three quarterbacks. I think it'll be Dak, Sam Howell, Joe Milton. Those are your three guys. Um, Running back, pretty simple. I think it's going to be Javonte Williams. I think it's going to be Jadon Blue, and it's going to be Phil Maffa. I do believe if he clears waivers, the Cowboys will keep Malik Davis on the practice squad, or possibly the other guy, Israel, the guy we just picked up, number 30. I think those two will be practice squad candidates, but as good as they played, I just don't know if Davis is going to be able to get that job. But I do think Davis is talented, though, man. And there's a chance he may not clear waivers because he played good last year when he got his opportunities. But those are my predictions at running back. Fullback, it'll be Hunter Lipke. Cowboys will keep him. Um, Wide receiver, for me, based on what I've seen last night, I think your five wide receivers are going to be Lamb, Pickens, Flournoy, Turpin, and Camden Brown Jr. I think those are the five wide receivers the Cowboys keep. Valdez Scantling is probably going to get cut. I don't think he makes the roster. Uh, to me, I don't know why you would either way because I think the younger guys have been more impressive. And plus, I mean, even if Valdez Scantling makes the roster, he's going to be a fifth guy. I'd rather keep these younger guys than keep him. That's just my honest opinion. But I think Camden Brown's your wide receiver five. I think Anthony Smith is probably your first practice squad receiver. Although I could see Anthony Smith possibly make the team if they decide to keep six. But right now, Camden Brown, I think, has got the number five spot over Anthony Smith. I just do based on what I've seen in camp, based on what I've seen in the game. Camden Brown looks like your number five wide receiver. Um, Mingo is a guy who, while he's played pretty good in camp and he's looked good in the game, I think he probably gets cut because his contract's going to be too much. Could the Cowboys bring him on the practice squad? Sure, but I don't know if he's played decent, but I don't think he's done enough to quite beat out Camden Brown. I just don't. That's why I think at tight end it's going to be Ferguson, Fanford, and Michael Trigg. I think Michael Trigg is going to beat out Schoonmaker. I could see Schoonmaker possibly make the team, even though I'm not a fan of that, over Trigg because of his blocking ability. Again, I don't understand it. I would move on. I would move on from Schoonmaker. His contract is too much money. He's really not that good other than blocking. I would just take Trigg, save the money, get up to 19, $20 million in cap space or whatever it is for cutting Schoonmaker. And I would just save your money. Give these younger guys a chance. That's who I think makes the 53 man tight end. Offensive line, obviously, it's going to be your five starters. I think it's going to be BB, Booker, Smith, Tyler Guyton, and what's his face? Terrence Steele. Your backups are going to be Nate Thomas. I think John A. Cornelius makes the team. Drew Shelton most likely makes the team. DJ Bass makes the team. And I could see him keeping a 10th offensive lineman. I could see them keeping Trevor Keegan. Trevor Keegan's kind of a bubble player, but those 9 for sure, and then Trevor Keegan, so maybe 10. Excuse me. Hang on. Oh my gosh, my ears are all plugged up. Hang on a second. Oh my goodness gracious, my ear just got super plugged up. 1 second. There we go. That's better. Sorry about that, guys. Uh, so what is that? 5 receivers, 10 offensive linemen, 3 quarterbacks. That's 18. 3 running backs. That's 21. And then a fullback. That's 22. So, anyways, and then we'll move on to the defense. Defensive linemen. I think you're starting the guys that make the team from tackle to ends. I mean, Atito Abanya, Kenny Clark, Quentin Williams, they all make the team. I think backup is going to be LT Overton, Bullard, and Jay Toya. Jay Toya is kind of I guess, a bubble guy, but I like him. I think the Cowboys keep 6. That's who I think they make. That's how I think makes the team. I think it's Tito, Kenny, Quinnen, Bullard, Toya, LT Overton. They keep 6. So that's now 28 players, right? Then let's move on to linebackers or edges, right? Obviously, Gary and Ezraku are going to be your starters. Malachi Lawrence is probably your backup. James Houston's your next backup. I think the Cowboys probably keep 5, and then they keep Sam Williams. I think Maris Leofau gets cut. I don't think Maris Leofau makes this team. I think he gets cut this year. He didn't have a bad game yesterday. Like, he did make a nice play there in the backfield, but yeah, man, Maris Leofau, I don't see him making the team. What up, Sean? How's it going, man? Almost time for the regular season. Yeah, man, it's next month. Next month, 4 weeks from now. Isn't that crazy? But yeah, I think your edges are going to be, I think the Cowboys keep 5. I think it's going to be Gary, Ezra Raku, Lawrence, Houston, Sam Williams. That's who I think it's going to be. I think Maris Leofau doesn't make the cut, in my honest opinion. Linebackers, Overshown, of course, Jay-Sean Barham, D. Winters, Jamar James. I think those 5. Those 5. I think Barron's probably a practice squad guy. He had a good game. He actually looked good in the scrimmage against the Rams, but I don't think he quite makes the team. That's just my thoughts. So I think the Cowboys keep 5 linebackers. They keep Overshown, Barham, Winters, Jamar James, and gosh, who did I just mention? I said Barham, Overshown, James, Winters, and there was one more I just mentioned. Who did I just mention? There's one more. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Not Maris Leah Fowler. There's one more. I can't think of it right now. But I think those are your linebackers. And I think they'll keep one more guy. I just can't think of it. Um, Corners. I think they're gonna keep Bland, Devon Revel, Kobe Durant. I think they keep 5 corners. Kobe Durant, technically Caleb Downs because he's your nickel guy, right? And then Devin Moore. I think those are your 5 guys. Um, Kalen Carson, man, after what I seen yesterday, he's kind of on the bubble. I could see him getting cut, but I'll say 6. I think they'll keep Kalen Carson. So I think it'll be Bland, Revel, Durant, Downs, Carson, and Moore. I think those are your 6 corners right there. Um, that's what I think. Safeties, I think the Cowboys will keep technically 4. As much as I'm not a fan of him, I think Malik Hooker probably makes the team. Um, PJ Locke makes the team. Those are your 2 guys there. And then you'll have Jalen Thompson, of course, make the team. And then honestly, it, it it's going to be a battle between Marquise Bell. It's going to be a battle between Marquise Bell, Julius Wood, and Elijah Clark. I think it'll be one of those guys. Marquise Bell may make the team though, just because of injury. So I'll say Marquise Bell for right now. And then you'll keep, of course, Stieg is your long snapper, uh, Anger's your punter, Aubrey's your kicker, and that's your 53-man roster right there. Uh, Obviously, that's who I predict. There's a few of those that are kind of on the bubble, like at receiver and corner and stuff. That's what I think makes the roster. Are those guys? Sean Sharon says, don't know if you've seen it or not on Big Country's channel, but he's thinking about quitting YouTube. I don't blame him because he has to deal with the BS as part of why I don't do it. Yeah, man, it is what it is. Like I said, I mean, I don't make like any money from YouTube at all. I only have 870 subscribers. I just do this for fun, kind of as a way to interact with other, Cowboys fans, especially ones that kind of share, my thoughts or have similar thoughts on the team. You know, Obviously, there's like, I don't agree with everything everybody says, but it's nice to kind of have that, outlet because in real life, man, I don't know a lot of Cowboys fans that share my thoughts on Dak. There's a handful that I like, as a guy I work with that kind of shares my thoughts on that a little bit, but there's not a lot of other people. Um, most Cowboys fans are like kind of delusional when it comes to Dak, if I'm being honest. At least the ones I know. Javon Revel, but I hope Big Country doesn't quit YouTube. I mean, I think he does a good job on his channel. So I definitely enjoy watching his stuff. I think Um, Siobhan Revel is looking good in camp. Yeah, man, Siobhan Revel looked good in the game too. He was part of my notes. I think he played pretty well yesterday. He had a nice pass breakup. I'm not impressed with what I've seen from Carson so far. Besides his first game ever played in versus Browns. Yeah, like I said, man, Carson, he had that one nice pass breakup, but he had 3 penalties yesterday, and that's not good. And plus, if you look at Carson's history, the guy's been injury prone pretty much his entire career. So even if he does make the team, I'm sure that, Kendrick or one of these other guys will make the team, or Josh Butler possibly, just because of injury. They'll be practice squatted and they'll probably make the team. So, yeah, yeah. Yeah, man. But I agree. I think Kalen Carson's definitely he other than the one play he had a bad game. I mean, he's the reason that we gave up any points in that game because he had that terrible pass interference all on him, man. Mike Rodriguez says, I like Big Country Channel a lot. Never knew about his channel until I was talking about him. But yeah, man, he does a good job on his channel. I think he does a good job of keeping it real with people. Obviously you don't agree with everything that he says, but that's just how it is. I think he does a good job, though. I enjoy it. I think he definitely is definitely one of the best. Every, every Cowboys fans I work with or friends with, I know they don't think Dak is the guy either. It might be just an age thing, though, Sean, too, because you're a little bit older. Because you're what, 41, right? I'm 28, so I'm a little bit, I'm young, but I'm not like super young. But most of the people I interact with that are in their 20s are like big Dak fans. You know, Again, there's a few people I know that are kind of, you know, neutral on Dak, but there's nobody that's like, you know, most Cowboy fans I meet are pretty delusional when it comes to Dak. There are some though that I do meet. But I noticed that a lot of the older fans I talk to are the ones that usually keep it real when it comes to Dak. Usually, guys in their 40s and older are generally the ones that are like, "Yeah, Dak's not the guy." Usually the younger crowd is the ones that doesn't keep it real when it comes to Dak, especially like, the college age kids. And I was like that too. When I was in college, like early on, I was a Dak fan too. Like I would say between like 2016 to about 2021, I was a Dak fan. Now, I was never quite as delusional as some of the other Dak fans. Like, I never thought Dak should have gotten paid $40 million. I thought back then he should have been paid somewhere between 28 to 34 million, which even now I think that's that's still a little delusional. But you know, I never thought he should have been paid 40 million. And looking back, if we're being honest, Dak should have been paid probably about 25 to 30 million based on what he brought to the table. Because I think he should have been paid just a tiny bit more than Ryan Tannehill just because he was younger. So I think maybe 30 million was about what he should have gotten paid. And the Cowboys did try to pay Dak that, but he just turned it down. And I think the Cowboys should have just moved on. They could have tagged and traded him, drafted Mac Jones. They could have still had Micah, and they would have been just fine, honestly. And they still had Andy Dalton at that time. They would have been just fine. I think they wouldn't have been any worse off than they are now. Um, yeah. Most people I know are Dak fanboys. The only channels I hear that hold him accountable is mine, Big Country, 1980s. There's, Mike. There's smaller Cowboy content creators, like you just mentioned, some of them that do keep it real about Dak. I think Cowboys Corner does try to keep it real about Dak. I think he does a good job. Uh, Cowboys blog with Rodriguez, I think he does a decent job, trying to keep it real when it comes to Dak. He's not quite as critical as like me or Big Country or JB, the Cowboy fan, or fifth quarter, you know. But um, he does try to keep it real with Dak, um, on his channel. Gerard Johnson used to really keep it real with Dak on his channel. He's not done it as much in the last couple years. He's kind of I wouldn't say he's a Dak fanboy because he still seems like he'd be open to moving on from Dak if you can get a better quarterback, but he's not as critical. But he was like one of the first YouTubers I ever watched uh, that did Cowboys content that kept it real when it came to Dak was Gerard Johnson. And then I found BC's channel probably like a year after that. So Gerard was like the first one I remember that started telling the truth about Dak. So there's a few. There's a few. Sean Sharon says he had 3 penalties. Are you talking about Carson? Yeah, Carson was bad yesterday, man. Other than the one play he had, he's the reason why we gave up a touchdown. Mike Rodriguez. oh, Sorry, guys. Went out for a second. Internet went out. I'm 31. I know that most Cowboys fans are super Dak fans. Yeah, Mike, I think at our age, being, in your early 30s, me being in my late 20s, I think most people our age are big Dak fans. Like I said, usually it's the older Cowboys fans that are, we were down 7-3. He goes out there and throws a great pass to Camden Brown for a 39-yard touchdown. I mean, that's gamer right there, man. He helped the Cowboys take the lead. That was awesome. And I know it's preseason, but Sam Howell moved the ball and he made a great throw. Camden Brown made a great catch as well, but that was a great throw. Did you see that throw? He threw it into, a tight window. He threw the ball exactly where it needed to be, and he hit Camden Brown right in the numbers. And that was after he was being held. So, I mean, um, hang on. Um, hang on. Connect key, how's it going? It's just about because I was talking about this last year. He had the same knee injury as Terry Glenn back in 2007, and that ended Terry Glenn's career. I mean, Terry Glenn was a little bit older than Trayvon Diggs was because Diggs was in his late 20s. I believe Terry Glenn was in his early 30s. By the way, rest in peace to him. But yeah, man, after he had lost the cartilage in his knee, that kind of ended Terry Glenn's career. So, and Diggs kind of had the same issue. Yeah. Uh, yeah, Gerard Johnson used to hold Dak accountable, but not really anymore. He seems to protect Dak now. He's not like as bad as he's not as bad as some of the other, Dakstian channels. I mean, he's not like Law Nation or anything like that. But yeah, he's definitely not. He doesn't criticize Dak as much as he used to. That's for sure. JB says Carson is garbage, bro. Yeah, I mean Carson. The one play, man. I mean, he's the reason why we gave up 7 points yesterday. He had that bat. He had 2 penalties on that drive. He was not good yesterday, dude. Um, His facts. Sean Sharon says Dallas fan. In some ways, I think you meant to say love to see Sam Howell as Cowboys starter. Yeah, man, I would too. Because imagine this, Sean. Dak's getting paid $60 million right now, right? This is how I think about it. If Sam Howell were to start this year and have a good season, the most that he'd get paid is maybe $20 million. So imagine the Cowboys have the offense we have now, and there is a way to move on from Dak, right? Like I said, Sam Howell, we already know, is capable of throwing 25 plus touchdowns with the talent that Dak's got. Could you imagine if the Cowboys were to move on from Dak? Let's say we cut him, we get rid of his $60 million contract. We sign Sam Howell to a $15-20 million a year deal. Dude, we got $40 to $45 million left over. We can go out there and get 2 stud linebackers for like $10 million. We can go out there and get a premium edge player for like 20 million. We could get 4 to 5 really good players that would help our team in the money in the 40 million to 45 million that we'd save by not paying Dak. I mean, his contract is worth like 4 to 5 really good players, if not elite players. We could get 4 to 5 really good to elite players for the amount of money that we would save if we were paying Sam Howell 15 to 20 million versus paying Dak 60 million. And the offense really wouldn't be that there wouldn't be that big of a drop off between him and Dak, if I'm being honest. There just wouldn't. I mean, I would love to have that as a fan. Pay Sam Howell 15-20 million. You get 4 or 5 other really good players at linebacker and at edge. I mean, if you don't trust Sam Howell to be your guy going forward, he could be a good bridge quarterback, and you draft somebody next year that's better, and you can have him sit behind Howell and develop and become the starter, or you could just keep Howell. I would love that, man. I think the Cowboys would be better off doing that than paying Dak the 60 million. But that's just how I feel about it. Um, yeah, the screen is. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was earlier. JB says first round pick Malachi Lawrence needs some serious work. Yeah, man. JB, I didn't like his effort yesterday. I did not like Malachi Lawrence's effort yesterday. I see the talent with him, like I was mentioning earlier. Like I see the speed that everybody's talking about, but he didn't set the edge well. And, Cowboys corner pointed that out. And I agree because I saw that. He didn't set the edge well. And I didn't like his effort. There was a big play on third down that he didn't set the edge well. And then he didn't even try to run after Jalen Milroe. He just sat there. He didn't even like try to, use his speed and effort. And that pissed me off. I don't like that one bit. He's got to do a better job of setting the edge, and he's got to give more effort. I didn't like his effort at all on that play. And at times, his effort was kind of lackadaisical, and I don't like that. He's got to do a better job when it comes to setting the edge. He's got to do a better job when it comes to his effort. Didn't like that one bit. Did not like that one bit. Um, Back now. Yep, I saw that. Malachi Lawrence, I wasn't super impressed with him. I wanted CJ Allen instead of him. Yeah, man, I wanted CJ Allen too. I was really big on CJ Allen. Think about this, Sean. The Cowboys could have had CJ Allen, Jacob Rodriguez, Josiah Trotter, or even Anthony Hill Jr. All those guys they were interested in. And yes, they would have been a reach in the first round, but any one of those four linebackers would have been plug and play starters. And even if you wanted to draft Barham, which I wasn't really big on Barham, but he's looked good in training camp. But even if you wanted to still draft Barham, you could have had Barham, Overshown, and either CJ Allen, Anthony Hill Jr., Josiah Trotter, or Jacob Rodriguez. You could have had one of those four linebackers, and you'd be set there in the middle. Because Malachi Lawrence is not going to start this year, man. He's going to be a rotational piece. We spent a freaking 20th overall pick. Not only did we reach, we spent it on a guy that's going to be a rotational piece versus we could have gone out there and drafted a linebacker that would have been a plug and play starter. Even Rodriguez. Rodriguez would have been a reach at 23 or wherever we got Malachi Lawrence, but at least he would have been a plug and play starter. Malachi Lawrence is not even going to be a starter this year, man. He's going to be a rotational piece. Just dumb. Um, Cowboys should have tried to bring back Clowney there, dummies. Yeah, I agree, man. They should have. How you doing, Rogue X? What's up? JB says, I agree. Sean Sharon, yeah, they should have brought back Davion Clowney because they don't have any speed on the edge. Malachi Lawrence has got the speed, but his effort sucks, and he's got a lot of work to do. His effort's got to be better. Atomic 0822 says, after watching the preseason game, what do you think about Joe Milton, Sam Howell? I think they both performed nicely. Dude, I agree. Dude, Joe Milton really surprised me yesterday. He looked a lot better. He had some really nice throws there. And Sam Howell played really good. So I talked about it in my post game. I talked about it earlier when I was talking about my notes. I liked both quarterbacks. I think if Dak were to get hurt, I would be comfortable rocking and rolling with either one of those QBs, Sam Howell or Joe Milton. So I think they both played pretty good. It's hard to say, honestly, who played better because it was so close. I mean, technically, Joe Milton had the better completion percentage and more yards, but he also went against third and fourth stringers. So that you have to factor that in. But it was close. I mean, their stats were very, very close. It's tough, man. It's a lot. I thought they were being biased with the competition, but they're not. I think it's real fair competition for QB2, and it's really close. It really is. I can see why. I think they both played pretty good. JB says they're first round not going to start. Yeah, dude, it was stupid. Like, you could have taken Jacob Rodriguez, DJ Allen, Anthony Hill, or Josiah Trotter. Yes, they would have been reaches there at pick 23, but they would have been plug and play starters at least. Even if you took Hill Jr., right, who was a second round pick, he would have at least started. He would have been your day one starter at linebacker. It would have been him. It would have been probably Barham and what's his face, Overshown. Yeah, that's who your starters would have been. Or put in Allen, put in Rodriguez, Trotter. Any one of those guys would have started had the Cowboys drafted him there at 23. Lawrence is not going to start this year at all. And you can see why. His effort sucks. He doesn't know how to set the edge. Who do you think is going to get the QB2? I don't know, man. I'm leaning towards Sam Howell, but I mean, honestly, man, I don't know. After this game, I don't know. We'll have to see how Joe Milton does, I guess, against second and third stringers to really judge. But it's close between the two guys. I really do think it's close. I didn't even like the Lawrence pick. I wanted Rodriguez, the linebacker. He would have been a better Mike. He would have been a better pick there at 23. He would have been a starter. I mean, he went early in the second round anyways, and we picked late in the first. Rodriguez would have been a plug-and-play starter for the Dallas Cowboys. Lawrence is not going to start. He's going to be a rotational piece. He may start in a couple years, but then why would you draft him that high in the draft? he was a second round grade too. Like it would have made more sense to go out there and get Rodriguez because I mean Malachi Lawrence adds depth, but he doesn't really add much. You already have kind of what you need there at edge. I mean, like he's not going to be that much better than Sam Williams or James Houston or any of the other guys we got. So that's how I feel about it. Sean Sharon says he's going to be a rotational piece. Yeah, he's not going to be a starter. Not year one. Maybe next year or in 2 years from now he may start, but his efforts got to get a lot better, and he's got to set the edge better for me to see him be a starter. He's got the talent, but yeah, he's got to do a few things a little bit better, in my honest opinion. Hopefully, he plays better next game. I do hope he plays better second game because he played like I wasn't impressed with him game one. And he's been kind of looking like that all throughout training camp, though, from what I've seen. So, Cowboys are dummies. Yeah, Cowboys have missed on a few picks there, Sean. They've not been. We used to be one of the better teams in the league when it came to drafting. We've sucked the last couple of years. I'll just be honest. We've sucked the last couple of years. I mean, because let's look at the last like 5 years, right? We hit on Micah Parsons, yes, but he's no longer on the team. But we'll say we hit on him. We hit on Tyler Smith, so that's two. Mozzie was a huge miss, bust. Luke Schoonmaker was a huge miss, bust in the second round. I guess if you want to go second round in 21, Joseph was a bust. He didn't do nothing for us. And Sam Williams hasn't been that great so far, which sucks. I think Sam Williams is talented. He's just not focused. That's his biggest problem. 24, we took Tyler Guyton, who's looking like a bust. And then you can't really judge Marshawn Nealon too much because, he passed away and he didn't really play enough. God rest his soul, by the way. But even when he was out there playing, he wasn't looking great. But, you can't really – it's hard to judge him because he died. And fortunately, he died, which is just sad. We missed there. Booker's looked like a hit. I'll give him that. But Donovan Ezeraku hasn't looked all that good. We'll have to see how he does this year. And then this year, I mean, I think Caleb Downs has looked decent, but Malachi Lawrence, Cowboys have missed on the last couple picks we've had. I'll just be honest. That would have been cool. I would have loved Jacob Rodriguez. I would have much preferred him over Malachi Lawrence. That's for sure. At least he would have been a starter. I know this is kind of off topic, but what do you think our record will be? Our defense is definitely better than last year. I'm leaning towards a high end 12-5, low end 10-7, probably 11-6. It's going to depend, Atomic, on how the health of these other teams. I don't think we'll win 12 games, though, if I'm being honest. The schedule's a lot tougher. I could see us winning as many as 10 games. I could. Because there's a few games there. I really look back and looked at it. Like, I could see us winning up to 10 games potentially. But I could also see us being like 5-12, too. I could see us being as bad as like 6-11, 5-12. But I could see us being as good as like 9-8, 10-7. It's really going to depend on the health of the division this year. And I think it's really going to depend on the health of these other teams. If we're pretty healthy and some of the other teams are hurt, I mean, the Cowboys could potentially win a lot of games. But if, they're healthy and we're healthy, I just, again, it's hard to say, to be honest, but I don't see us winning 12 games. I could see us maybe winning up to 10 if, if we play the right way. Because the Cowboys have a lot of talent, Atomic. We do, but defense is just a question mark just because they should be better than last year, yes, but that doesn't mean they're going to be good, Still got to wait and see on them. One preseason game is not enough to really determine that just yet. We'll find out game one if the defense is really about something. I do think they will be better than last year, though. I agree. Offense is talented, but Dak Prescott, we know that when he plays against teams above 500, that he tends to struggle, man. He just doesn't play good against teams above 500. And the Cowboys play a lot of really good teams this year. I mean, we play the Ravens, the Texans, We play the NFC West, which all those teams look pretty good. So really, it's going to come down to how this defense plays, and it's going to come down to Dak Prescott. And I'll just be honest, I just don't trust Dak Prescott. Whenever he has a good season, he usually follows it up with a bad season, and he's due to have a bad year. But he shouldn't. I mean, he's loaded at the offensive position. I mean, the Cowboys literally have the fourth best wide receiving core in the NFL, according to ESPN. I honestly could argue it might be better than that, but there's really no excuses for him to play bad this year. Just my honest opinion. But we'll have to wait and see. Sean Sharon says they were debating between Lawrence and CJ Allen, but they were saying the edge was more valuable, but he wouldn't be a starter and that he would be a first round pick. Yeah, it was bad player evaluation, Sean. The Cowboys are really, we've been really bad at a player evaluation. Sean Sharon says 22 was the last good draft, in my opinion. I agree. If you look at 22, we got Tyler Smith, hit. We got Jake Ferguson, hit. And then we got Deron Bland, hit. That's three good players. Usually, I think you have to have three good players in a draft for it to be a good draft. So I'd agree. I think 22 is probably the last decent draft the Cowboys had. 21 was okay because, I mean, you got Micah, who was good, and Osa, but everybody else were either just kind of backups or they didn't do anything. 22, like we already mentioned, 23 was horrible. I mean, DeMarvion Overshown's the only true starter you got, and he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Mozzie Smith was a huge bust. I'll say that. I was wrong. I thought he was going to be good. I was wrong about him. Schoonmaker has been a huge bust. I told y'all Schoonmaker was a terrible pick. Horrible freaking pick by the Cowboys. Knew he was going to – I told you he was never going to beat out Ferguson, and I was right about that. So go figure, We took Overshown, who when he's healthy, he's good, but he's not been able to stay healthy. William A. Fahoko, I told you all that was a waste of pick too. He didn't even make the roster, man. We took him in the fourth round. He didn't even make the roster. It was just terrible pick by the Cowboys there. You could have picked up Mafi, who would have been a rotation. He would have been at least like a TJ Bass type of player, and you freaking just terrible, terrible, terrible evaluation there. Vaughn didn't do nothing. Eric Scott didn't. I think Vaughn could have been good, but he just didn't get any opportunities. I feel like Mike McCarthy really didn't give him a chance. I think Vaughn could have actually done something for the Cowboys if he was given the shot opportunity. But Mike McCarthy just doesn't know how to use running backs. I've been saying it for years. Richards didn't do anything. So yeah, 23 was massive bust. 24, like I said, Guyton's looking like a bust. We'll see how he does this year. Nealon passed away, unfortunately. Just sad there. Beebe's looked decent, but I think we should have kept him at guard, which is what he played in college. He's been a decent center, but I think he'd be a lot better guard, personally. And you could have just had Brock Hoffman. That's just my opinion. But I think he's probably a hit. Maris Leofau's looking like a bust, and it sucks because I really liked Maris Leofau. He played for my Notre Dame Fighting Irish. He's from Hawaii, and my girlfriend's parents lives down in Hawaii, so I like it down there a lot. So I really wanted Maris Leofau to work out, but he's just not. And then I mean, 24 actually maybe not be too bad because we got Ryan Flournoy. Ryan Flournoy was a hit to get a number 3 receiver in the 6th round. That's pretty good. And then Nate Thomas. I mean, Nate Thomas for being a 7th round pick is not done bad. I mean, he's a rotational backup that can start. So Nate Thomas for a 7th round pick wasn't too bad. So 24 may not be as bad as I thought there, but not a lot of studs. A couple of decent, rotational players. Starter here and there, but yeah, 25 I think will be okay because I mean Booker's look good. Siobhan Revel's starting to come into his own. Hopefully he continues to get better. Blue's looking better. We'll see how Donovan Ezeraku does. Hopefully, he does better in year two. I think he will do better in year two. But we'll see, man. We'll see. Uh, Atomic 0822 says, then there's always teams like the Cardinals and Titans that should be easy wins, but knowing the Cowboys, anything is possible. True. Hard to be any worse than what they were last year. Yeah, the defense, man. Yeah, defense was pretty bad last year. Um, let's go through the schedule just for funsies, right? Game one against the Giants. I think that's going to be a tough game for the Dallas Cowboys, but I do think that we should come out on top because I think the Giants are going to get better, but I think that they'll struggle a little bit at first to kind of find themselves. Um, Washington, based on what I've seen, they have talent, but their offensive line is really bad. I think Cowboys should probably win that game, although I think that they're going to be a better team this year. That's 2 wins. Baltimore, I think the Cowboys probably lose this game. We struggle with speed. We don't really have any good speed rushers. I could see us struggling that game. I think that's a loss. Texans, I think that's probably a loss. Their defense is really, really good. I could see Dak Prescott playing really, really bad in that game. I mean, honestly, I could see Dak going out there and throwing like 2 to 3 interceptions just because, I mean, he struggled a couple of years ago against the Texans when they were bad and starting to build that defense. They're a lot better now than what they were back then. I think Dak struggles that game, and we probably lose that game. Um, Tampa Bay is kind of a 50-50 game. I could see that going either way. Tampa Bay doesn't have, I mean, they have Amika Ibuka and Godwin, but Cowboys tend to play pretty good against Tampa Bay, so I think that we should probably win that. That's what, 3 wins? And this is going to sound controversial because the Cowboys usually struggle against Green Bay, but I actually think the Cowboys are going to beat Green Bay this year. I just do. Green Bay didn't really get better. You know, they don't Micah Parsons, even if he comes back, he's not going to be at 100%. And speed is like that dude's entire game. I don't think he's going to be like anywhere near as effective, even if he comes back. I think the Cowboys are going to get their revenge, and I think they're pissed off about that tie. I think we win that game. I still think it's technically a 50-50 game, but I think the Cowboys win that. That's what, 4 wins. Eagles, I think we probably lose that first game just because the Eagles, you know, are. I just think we probably lose that first game just because we tend to split it with Philly. So that's 4-3. Cardinals are a team we struggle against, but the Cowboys should beat the Cardinals. I'll give them that. It's 5 wins. Then we play Indianapolis. Indianapolis is a team that we tend to play decent against. They are talented. I think that's a 50-50 game as well. But I say the Cowboys win that one, so that's 6 games. Then I believe that we play the Tennessee Titans. Again, I don't have the schedule in front of me. I'm just thinking of it in my head. Cowboys should win that game. They should beat the Titans. That's 7 wins. Then we play, I think, the 49ers. If Dak Prescott's starting that game, Cowboys have no chance. Whenever Dak plays against the 49ers, he just gets, psychologically, I don't know what it is with him, but he just plays bad. 49ers also are really talented, so I think Cowboys probably lose that game. And that's another game where I could see Dak having like 2 to 3 interceptions if he's out there playing still. I give us a better chance with Sam Howell or Joe Milton just because they don't have that psychological struggle that Dak's got. But yeah, if Dak's starting that game, yeah, we're not going to beat 49ers. So that's what, 7-4. I think the Cowboys do beat the Eagles on Thanksgiving this year, which would put us at 8-4. I think we win that game and we split it with the Eagles. After that, we play the Seahawks and the Rams. I mean, I know we beat the Seahawks in preseason last night, but I don't think the Cowboys beat the Seahawks this year. I just don't. I think the Seahawks are still a really good team. They're very deep. I think we probably lose that game. The Rams game, I think the Cowboys play in a close battle. I do. I think that that game is going to be one of those games like Denver versus Cowboys in 2013, where it's like 48-51 or something crazy like that. I think that's a very high scoring game, but Dak just being the choker that he is, I think he chokes, and Matthew Stafford and the Rams get that win. So I think the Cowboys probably lose that game. But although I could see the Cowboys winning that game, if as crazy as that is, I could actually see the Cowboys beating Seattle or the Rams. I could. I actually could. I know that sounds nuts, but I could see them winning one of those games. But I don't think they will. Just being realistic. But I could. I don't think it's impossible for them to win one of those games. I don't. So that would put us at what, 8-6. Then we play the Jaguars. That's kind of a 50-50 game. But I think the Cowboys should come away with that one. So what is that? 9 wins. Um, then we play Washington and the Giants, and I think the Cowboys probably lose those last 2 games. So yeah, about 9 wins. I mean, there's a few games in there that are 50-50. I could see the Cowboys losing. There's a few games in there that are 50-50. I could even see the Cowboys winning. Like I said, I mean, I could see us beating the Rams. I could see us beating Seattle. I just don't expect us to. But I could see Cowboys like surprising people and beating one of those teams. I do. I could. And again, Washington's talented, man, but their offensive line is bad. And I think, I mean, they struggled. I mean, they beat, yes, it's preseason and everything, but the Cowboys' win against Seattle was much more impressive than Washington's win against the Dolphins. I mean, I know it's preseason and everything, but I mean, the Miami Dolphins are a team that most people expect to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. They're not expected to be in the playoffs. Seattle is the defending Super Bowl champions. A lot of people expect the Seattle Seahawks to be back in the playoffs, expect them to be a good team. And they're very deep. And for us to play good against them, I think is impressive. The Commanders playing against the Dolphins, they won, but I mean, the Dolphins are expected to be one of the worst teams. I mean, think about this. Jalen Tolbert was our number 4 wide receiver behind Ryan Flournoy. He's their number 2 right now. He is. He's their number 2 right now. Oh, yeah. The Commanders they have some talent, but their offensive line's a question mark. And they're going to have to get better there if they want to win this season. I mean, I didn't get to watch the game, but I did watch like snippets, and yeah, they were pretty bad, man. Be good or bad? Yeah, I agree. It's hard to know. But if we we have some talent there. The division is really unpredictable. When the Giants are good, they're good. When the Commanders did super well 2 seasons ago. Eagles always do good. Yep. Especially the Eagles get back to the RPO game. I think that they're going to be a dangerous team. Um, I just do. Um, and plus, they have the experience. So you got to give them that. So the Cowboys shut out the Seahawks out of any points after the first quarter. It wasn't all the starts, but yeah, that is, man. Like I said, and it was our and Atomic. It was our backups too. It wasn't just Seattle's backups. I mean, look at who we had out there. We had guys that weren't even going to make the team, like like Isaiah Land and Justin Barron. I mean, those guys aren't going to make the team. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the Seattle guys were the same thing with them. So I mean, for us to have our backups play better, then I mean that's impressive. I mean, look at the quarterbacks. Let's be honest, Atomic. Whose backup quarterbacks played better? The Cowboys or the Seahawks? To me, it was the Cowboys. And statistically speaking, I have the evidence to back it up. I mean, Sam Howell outplayed Drew Lock, and Joe Milton outplayed Drew Lock. And then so both our quarterbacks outplayed their backups, So, and I was high on Jalen Milroe. I liked him coming out of Alabama. I thought he was pretty solid. But if I had to say who played better, Joe Milton and Sam Howell, or Drew Lock and what's his face, Jalen Milroe. I mean, Joe Milton and Sam Howell were way better. It wasn't even close. Just hoping for a playoff run. It's time Dak gets some playoff wins. hate to say it, but his time in the NFL might be over sooner than later. Yeah, man. Um, Dak just chokes too much in the playoffs, man. That's the biggest problem. And when he plays against good teams, he gets that look in his eyes, and you know you're screwed. It has nothing to do with talent. I mean, I've seen way less talented quarterbacks than Dak win, playoff games to go to the. I mean, let's look at the Seattle Seahawks. I'll be honest. I think Dak is just as good as Sam Darnold. I think you could even argue Dak's a little bit better than Sam Darnold. I don't think so. I think he and Sam Darnold are kind of right on the same level. But Sam Darnold just won a Super Bowl, and I think Dak is just as good as him. You know, but what was the difference? Sam Darnold didn't go out there and turn the ball over multiple times a game like Dak did in the playoffs, and that's the biggest difference. I mean, the last 3 years, the biggest reason why we've lost in the playoffs has been going. The defense was bad in 23, yes, but a lot of it goes back to Dak turning the ball over. I mean, he literally single-handedly lost us that 2022 49ers divisional game because he was that bad. I mean, even if he had gone out there and he had just managed the game, threw the ball away, not done anything spectacular, just been kind of a game manager, Cowboys win that game and we go to the NFC Championship. But Dak didn't do that. He went out there and he was very reckless with the football and he played like garbage and he single-handedly lost us the game. So if it were up to me, Atomic, I mean, it's just hard for me. It's hard for me to back Dak because of his fan base just being extremely delusional. They're very rude and disrespectful. Um, the way that they blame other players and other components of the team for Dak's, bad play really pisses me off. Like all they do is make excuses for the guy. And then, some of the dumb stuff he says, it's just hard. Like, I'll be happy. Let me put it this way: if Dak goes out there and he wins, I'd be very happy because I'm a Cowboys fan at the end of the day. But I'm not a big Dak Prescott fan. If you haven't noticed, I'd much rather have Joe Milton or Sam Howell. It'd be easier, it'd be a lot easier to root for him than it would be, because a lot of the Dak fans are just very delusional, man, and they're very disrespectful. I question if they're even Cowboys fans sometimes because they make so many excuses for Dak every time he plays bad, and literally, like somebody literally the other day I commented that Dak single-handedly lost us that 2022 divisional game, which is true. I mean, he's a big reason why we lost that game, and to me, he's the main reason because he played so bad, like I was just saying. And somebody literally had the nerve to say that it wasn't Dak's fault. And I'm like, bro, really? He literally had 2 turnovers that led to field goals for the 49ers. How is it not his fault? Like, if he doesn't turn the ball over and give the 49ers good field position, one of them was when we were inside the red zone, the Cowboys would have gotten a field goal, which would have led to 15 points, and the 49ers would have not gotten 2 field goals, which gave them 6 points. Cowboys, therefore, would have won that game 15-13. Had Dak gone out there and just managed the game. But he played that bad, and there's people that just make excuses for the guy. They make way too many excuses, and it pisses me off, dude. I was super pissed off about that, Dallas. And yeah, man, they just all they do is make excuses for Dak, man, and it pisses me off. And then on top of that, his contract has really hurt the team in terms of being able to build a roster because he's just taking up so much money. You know what I'm saying? And he's not a bad quarterback, but he's not great. Like he's not Joe Burrow or a Josh Allen level. He's just not. He's just not, dude. Like he's more like a Sam Darnold, type of quarterback. He is. But Sam Darnold, he's not making $60 million. He's making 33. And that's about what Dak should probably be making around what Sam Darnold's making, 30 to 35 million. Like that's about where he's at in terms of his talent. If Dak wasn't making all the money, they could have a better defense. He was the one who wanted to be the highest. But yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, dude. That's why he demanded the bank. And I get it, but like, dude, he's delusional. The Cowboys, I mean, Brock Purdy has outplayed Dak every time he's faced him. And he's been to a Super Bowl. And he's been deep in the playoffs twice. and he didn't even get the highest amount of money. Jared Goff took the Detroit Lions to their first NFC Championship game in like 30 years, right? And he had a great season. And just like Dak Prescott, he had a very good supporting cast around him. He didn't even like reset the market. He only made $53 million. So Dak's not done anywhere even close to what Jared Goff or Brock Purdy has done in terms of winning playoff games. And yet he's making more money than them. How does that make any sense? You know what I mean? That's just how I feel like it. I'm a super Dak fan. I love the heck out of him. But I can admit when he's wrong and he does throw more picks. Like, see, that's okay, Atomic. That's fine. You know, I'm not afraid to give Dak Prescott credit when it's due. In fact, I defended him last year in a couple games when the defense was bad. But, a lot of people can't do that. It's okay to be like Dak. That's fine. But the thing is, like, people just make way too many excuses for him and they're not realistic about him. I think it's okay to like Dak and, want him to do well. Like, heck, I want Dak to do well. I don't want Dak to go out there and suck. I don't. But at the same time, that's just that's why I expect based on his history. But I hope he does. I hope Dak does prove me wrong. He goes out there and he wins because that would be awesome because we would win. That would be great. That's just how I feel. Just, you just got people have just got to be a little bit more real when it comes to Dak. Like if he plays bad, call him out. If he plays good, give him his credit. You know, that's all right. And he really is overpaid. You look at somebody like Mahomes who has 60 million, like Prescott. You understand why. Mahomes is great. Dak makes too much and it affects the other players. Yeah, well, that's the problem, Atomic. Like if Dak was making like what Sam Darnold was making, heck, even if Dak was still making like $40 million, that put him, I think, 16th. I mean, I that wouldn't be as bad as him making 60. It's not only that he's making 60, it's the way the contract is set up. It's a lot of guaranteed money, and it's just his cap hits so high every single year, and it really hurts the Cowboys' ability to build. And he's not the only one. Like whenever these teams go out there and they pay the quarterback Atomic, 0822, they have a hard time building rosters too because they can't afford. Like look at the Bengals with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, the Bengals have gotten progressively worse and worse and worse. Why? Because three guys are taking up all the money. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins are taking up a lot of money. That's why the Bengals are struggling is because they can't afford to go out there and build the rest of their roster. So if you're making money like Dak's making, you have to understand that there's going to be more holes on your team and that you're going to have to be able to cover those holes. You know what I'm saying? That's the biggest problem, and Dak is just not good enough. Dak needs a lot of help to succeed, which is fine, but then he shouldn't be taking $60 million. He should take more of a Sam Darnold type of deal, 30 to 35 mil. That would be more fair. You know what I mean? Based on what he brings to the table in terms of his talent. You know, that's how I feel about it, at least. Anyways, JP says Dak is an effing cancer to the Dallas Cowboys. In a lot of ways, you could say that, dude. In a lot of ways, you can say that because I think there's a lot of this. The way we've built this team has gone back to Dak. Honestly, I mean, the reason why Brian Schottenheimer is the head coach goes back to Dak. The reason why we drafted Luke Schoonmaker is because Dak didn't think Jake Ferguson was going to be as good as he did. So that goes back to him. We traded Amari Cooper and held on to an injured Michael Gallup because Michael Gallup was Dak's buddy. You know, it just some of the decisions that Dak's had influences on over the last like 5 years have really affected the team negatively. Like I said, if Dak was making less money, like Sean said, if Dak wasn't making $60 million, like if he was making like Sam Darnold type of money, I wouldn't be nearly as hard on him. Because then you could actually afford to go out there and get him weapons like the Seahawks have done for Sam Darnold. But yeah, man, his influence has affected the team negatively in a lot of ways. It's 100% true. But anyways, man. But I just wanted to. It was just fun to enjoy football yesterday, man. And even though it's preseason, for us to win, for us to beat a Seattle Seahawks team, that's the defending Super Bowl champions. Even if it's our backups against their backups, because they're a pretty like talented team when it comes to depth. And I think, and I gotta say, man, I really like the way that Seattle builds their team. I think that they run their organization the right way. Um, to me, was impressive. I know it's preseason, but it's impressive because Seattle is a talented team. They really are. They really are. They're a very deep roster. And for us to be competitive with them, I was proud of my Cowboys, even if it's a preseason game, you know. And I was proud of the backups. I was proud of the backups and the way that they played. You know what I mean? So that's good. And hopefully Dak does have a good season. I don't want Dak to go out there and suck. I will call him out though if he does, but I hope he doesn't suck. I will say that. Because at the end of the day, I want my Cowboys to win, man. I don't care if it's Dak or Joe Milton or whoever, man. Just if we win, that's what matters, dude. That's what matters. I don't care who it is. I want my Cowboys to win. You know. I really can't wait for all the regular seasons to start. All I can say is, how about them? Yes, sir, dude. I was happy yesterday. It was fun game to watch. You know, the beginning I was pretty frustrated because of the stupid penalties that gave the Seattle Seahawks points, but then they rebounded and they looked a lot better. Both backup quarterbacks, Milton and what's his face, Sam Howell looked good. I can see why there's a real QB2 competition. Because they both look good. I think Sam Howell looked really good, and I mean that throw he had to Camden Brown was beautiful. And also, Joe Milton actually had a really nice throw to Camden Brown too, across the middle. That's something that he's kind of struggled with. That was a beautiful throw. I looked at that, and in the replay, and I'm like, man, that's great throw. Good job reading the defense on that. I mean, that was a good throw by Joe Milton, and then Sam Howell too. I mean, that throw was great. Motel TV gang says Pickens going to be top 2 in receiving yards and touchdowns. I mean, you could argue that because he was top 5 last year, and he's going to be trying to play for that contract. So you could definitely argue that. I think that that's definitely something that could be realistic, 100%. San Antonio Spurs 966 says Milton has improved. Yes, he has, man. He looks a lot better than he did last year. And I got to say that about Joe Milton because I wasn't sure if he was gonna how he was gonna do, but Joe Milton has looked a lot better than he did last season for sure, man. So far, I've been impressed with him this year. Him and Sam Howell. Sam Howell was really good too. So, but yeah, this has been a long live stream, you guys. Those were just kind of my preseason notes there. My 53-man roster prediction. You know, um, both backup quarterbacks played well. Defense looked good after the first drop. After the first quarter, they played really well. Camden Brown showed up. Michael Trigg showed up. The backup offensive line looked shaky at first, but they didn't give up any sacks, so you got to give them some credit. But things to work on. Penalties, 13 penalties is unacceptable. Like I said, fumbling. We had the only turnover of the game because Holden fumbled. Got to work on that. That's going to cost us games in the regular season. But good thing, I'm glad that, hey, good thing Trayshawn Holden ain't going to be, on the team or going to be catching punts because that was terrible. But yeah, man. Then we kind of just BS, talked about random stuff here at the end. But I'm really happy with what I saw last night. Overall, again, got to clean up a few things, penalties for sure. Got to get better there. And then, just not holding on to the ball, not fumbling in the red zone, right? And I think coverage on special teams could be a little bit better, in my opinion, as well. There's a few times they kind of struggled. So that's just my thoughts. I hope you guys are having a good day. Go Cowboys. Big win. Catch y'all later. Peace.